So the other day, I was taking my dog on a walk. And by the way, I'm so sorry. If you've watched any of my videos, you are probably so tired of hearing me talk about walking my dog. I don't know what to tell you. It's dog mom life. But anyway, I was taking Darcy out for a walk, and when I stepped outside, I noticed something different. There was this chill in the air. I actually had to go inside and get a jacket. I mean, granted, I was still wearing shorts. It was like high 60s or something like that. But still, fall is officially here, everyone. Birds are flying down south, which is to say that they're flying to where I live. Coffee shops are putting out a variety of apple and pumpkin flavored drinks. I did my fall nails last night. Yes, I did break this pinky nail, but we're not going to talk about that. Anyway, it is a good thing that it's still very early feeling fall. Maybe not where you live, but certainly here, because I have some serious gaps in my fall wardrobe that I need to patch up before we officially move full swing into the season of pumpkin spice and Nora Ephron movies and Stars Hollow, apple cider donuts, farmers market, red leaves. I mean, if you live somewhere where you have not just palm trees around, fall does look a little bit different here. So today, and of course for you, it's going to be over the course of like 30 minutes to an hour. For me, this is going to be over the course of several days. We are going to be making what I think are some absolute fall wardrobe essentials. Just items that to me absolutely scream fall and that I'm very excited to have on hand as we move into the season of, for me, just not dying of sweat every time you step outside. So yeah, I'm very excited for all of this, and let's dive into it. So first off, I want to make like a collared mini dress. I see these around sometimes. I think that they are so extremely cute for fall, styled with, like little boots or something like that. And to make this, I am going to be using this green gingham with little florals over it. Honestly, I kind of debated whether this is fall appropriate fabric. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but a lot of the inspiration that I've seen tends to be like brown plaid or brown gingham. I didn't have any of that on hand, but these are actually scraps from a dress that I made last summer. And I feel like it works for fall. I think that it's a nice sort of muted green that's kind of fall. And then it has sort of these pops of purple and this burnt orange and kind of this light yellow. So I think that this can work for fall. I don't know. If you disagree, you can let me know in the comments. I can handle it. And to make this dress, I am going to be using the Sharon dress pattern by Vicky Sews. This is such a cute little mini dress. I love it has like the pleated skirt, which again, to me feels very autumnal. I feel like pleated plaid mini skirts are very popular in the fall. It also has these sort of longer puff sleeves that I think match the seasonal aesthetic. And it has this adorable little collar. So kind of the ironic thing is that I have actually made this pattern so many times. It is actually one of my most used patterns. I've used it to make a baby Yoda dress that I wore when my cousin and I went to Corpus Christi Comic Con. I used it to make a Miss Frizzle costume for Halloween a couple of years ago. Also, my husband was Bill Nye the Science Guy and Darcy was the Magic School Bus. I used the bodice part a few years back when we went to Universal Studios to make a Ravenclaw student outfit. And I used it last December to make a Christmas dress out of a tablecloth that I thrifted. And I love every version of this dress that I've made. And they're all a little different, which I really love. I think that's really fun when you have a pattern that's very customizable. You can easily tweak it, leave out the collar or add a different sleeve or, only do the bodice, whatever you want to really make whatever you want out of it. However, I realized as I was scrolling through my Instagram, trying to find all of the examples of when I've used this pattern before, every single time I've used it has been for like a costume or a specific theme. I've never made a version of it that I can just wear in my everyday life. So I'm excited to finally be doing that with this dress and this fabric. So yeah, let's get to work on this. As with most projects, I started by cutting out my pieces and sewing the darts. It's not the most thrilling part to watch or narrate, but there's something quietly reassuring about it. Most sewing projects begin this way, and after a while, the rhythm of it becomes familiar. It's like taking the same morning walk or going through your nightly skincare routine. Not exciting, but grounding in its own way. And sure, I'll probably be stress sweating through my clothes later when something inevitably goes wrong. But right now, I'm calm. I'm capable. I'm just cutting out shapes, sewing triangles, and listening to an audiobook give a modern interpretation of a horrifying Greek tragedy. And if you don't know how to sew darts, it's actually pretty simple. Just remember 3 things. 1. Start sewing from the raw edge of the fabric, not the point of the dart. 2. When you get to the point, turn the fabric to give it a gentle curve. Think soft taper, not hard stop. 3. Don't backstitch. Leave the thread tails long and tie them in a neat little knot to finish. And always press them so that they lie flat and pretty. After that, I attached the front and back bodice pieces at the shoulder seams, then sewed them together at the side seams. Okay guys, the bodice is coming along really well. We've pretty much got it all sewn up here. The only thing left to do is add the collar and the facing. And you know, I'm still not sure if this is more of a spring floral or a fall floral, but can I just say, you know, people always use that old clip from the Lizzie McGuire movie or show, but it's like, Lizzie McGuire, you are an outfit repeater. Not only am I an outfit repeater, but I am a very proud pattern repeater. Sometimes it's just really nice. Like, you already know how the garment is going to fit you. You know if you're going to have to make any adjustments. You've done it before, so you know all of the steps and the techniques involved in making it. It's kind of rereading a book that you love, you know? Like how I read the Anne of Green Gables books a million times. That's probably also where my obsession with puffy sleeves comes from. Actually, I'm not even sure that I read Anne of Green Gables, that book, that many times. I did read it multiple times. But like Anne of the Island, where she's off at college, and Anne of Windy Poplars, however you say it, those two are my favorite. I couldn't even tell you how many times I read those books. But when you've read a book so many times, there's a point where you're not really reading it for the plot anymore. You know how it ends. It's more that you're rereading it for the joy of the experience of reading it. And that's kind of how I feel when I sew patterns that I've made before. Obviously, I love trying new patterns, but I think that there is kind of a distinct joy and peace in pulling out patterns that you've made before and enjoying the familiarity of it, or finding new ways to make it interesting, changing up the sleeves or leaving out the collar or doing bows instead of buttons or adding lace, whatever it may be, just tweaking it a little bit each time so that it's always kind of a different experience, but you still get that same sort of serenity in making it. Sometimes it's nice just taking out the stress of having to figure out what you're doing and learning new techniques and just truly being able to enjoy and be present with the process of making your garment. Anyway, after that whole spiel. So the bodice is coming along really well. I'm going to put it aside for a moment and get to work on the skirt before we start on the collar and sleeves. And I will say, when it looks like kind of a vest like this, I feel like it looks more fallish than springish. But we will see. Anyway, I'm really liking it so far. And that's the biggest thing. Anyway, let's start on the skirt. So the first step with this skirt is to kind of baste the pleats. Now, I think the last time you saw me doing pleats on this channel, oh boy, this is what I'm doing wrong here. I think that I was just being stupid. I can't wait for this project to be over. This is embarrassing. It wasn't the most positive experience. Or this is going to be a 30-minute clip of me just trying to do basic pleats. Why are none of them lining up anymore? Oh my gosh. I was nearing a breakdown. It's kind of at the point now where like, yeah, it's not perfect, but it is getting harder and harder to care. However, I had a good night's sleep last night. I'm doing okay. And also, these pleats are significantly easier to do. There's also not that many of them. So they have it all here in the graph. So what it is, this is the back skirt piece. And as it very clearly says on these instructions, essentially what you're going to do is there are 3 notches up at the top here. I'm going to fold both notches kind of toward the middle pleat like this. I think this is right. I'm second guessing myself now. Then I'm going to pin that down. And I'm going to do the same with the other side. And that's it. There's only a couple of pleated sections. Essentially, this pattern uses pleats instead of darts on the skirt, which is fun. It adds, sort of a nice fullness to it. I have the same pleat right here that I'm just going to go ahead and quickly do. And then I have one pleat on both sides of the front skirt. So I'm just going to pleat them, and then I'll do a long stitch across the top to baste the pleats in place. And then we'll figure out what to do from there. I think after that, we just sew the skirt sides together. I think that it is so cute how this little purple flower is sort of framed by the pleats. Like it looks like it's peeking out behind a curtain before its dance recital or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one who finds that adorable, but I think that that is so cute how there's just like this little hidden flower in there. With the skirt sewn together and the edges finished, I attached the skirt to the completed bodice, making sure to align the side seams as well as the darts on the bodice with the pleats in the skirt. And with that, I was ready for another try on. I feel like when it's like this without the collar or sleeves or anything, it almost looks like a pinafore. But anyway, looking good, looking cute. I think I'm going to move on to the sleeves next. Kind of knock those out. The collar and the buttons are my least favorite part of the process. And so I'm just going to procrastinate on that. It'll be fine. We'll get it done soon, but I kind of want to keep this momentum up. The first step to make the sleeves was more pleating. It was fine. Essentially, this pattern uses pleats to replace gathers, so I followed the little arrows on the pattern to create pleats on the sleeve cap. Then I finished the sleeve edge, hemmed it, and sewed bias tape parallel to the hem. This is going to be the elastic channel so that I can create a puffy sleeve that would make Anne Shirley's heart flutter. It is kind of funny. I do keep thinking this whole project about the difference between spring florals and fall florals. I feel like spring and fall have the strictest dress code. You know what I mean? It's like they both have kind of their own very distinct aesthetic. Like in the spring is very much the old mantra from The Devil Wears Prada, florals for spring, groundbreaking. You do tend to associate spring clothing with floral patterns and pastel colors, and it feels almost taboo to wear darker or moodier colors in the spring. Whereas on the other hand, in the fall, it feels very wrong to wear pastels and sort of lighter florals. And instead, like we should be leaning more into those browns and darker, moodier colors, which is unfortunate for me. I don't mind spring dress code because that's how I like to dress. In the fall, though, not so much my color palette. I'm also obsessed with color seasons. I personally think that I'm a light spring. I could be wrong, but I think those are the colors that I look best in, which makes me very happy because those also do happen to be the colors that I like the most. And so in the fall, I like to lean a little bit more into kind of like the yellows and the oranges. And again, just kind of pick more kind of gingham patterns as opposed to kind of the pastel floral patterns. And of course, at the end of the day, you should wear whatever you want, whatever makes you feel most confident. Obviously, there's no real dress code. No one is going to arrest you if you have the absolute audacity to wear a pink floral dress in October. Wear whatever you want. But it's also kind of the fun of changing seasons, right? Is not completely changing your look, but just kind of shifting it so that it still feels like you and it still feels aligned, but you can sort of freshen things up with each new season. And so that's kind of the line that I'm trying to toe because, as I said, the colors that are typically associated with fall are not inherently colors that I gravitate toward. So for me, it's kind of a matter of figuring out what colors do I like and do I feel comfortable in that I feel like I can play a little more with in the fall, and what colors or patterns that I want to lean into with each new season, as opposed to just kind of sticking to the same old, same old. You know what I mean? And it's supposed to be fun. You should be playing around with it. There's no pressure. If you have one particular color palette, that is exactly what you want to stick to year round. Go for it. If you want to wear like a black lace outfit in April, like obviously there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that's a big part of style, is learning how to be playful with it and how to experiment while still being true to you and your comfort level. That's also the excuse that I'm using if you happen to think that this is just completely a spring pattern and color palette, which is fair. I'm not going to argue too much if that's what you think. But here we are. I'm very excited for how this dress is shaping up, and I love these colors. And you know what? I think they're going to work for fall. We'll see. I think that once it's styled, it'll look more autumnal. But I guess we'll find out. Anyway, I'm going to secure this elastic, sew up the sides of these sleeves, finish the side seams, and then pop them into the dress.
Windows down, scattered clouds, smell of spring outside. Open road, you sitting close.
Worries about whether the fabric was autumnal enough or I looked like I was about to head out for a spring garden party aside, I was really happy with how the dress was turning out. Until this. Okay, you guys, we have hit our first roadblock. So here's the thing. Obviously, I haven't sewn the collar yet. I just cut out the piece and I put it on top of the dress to get an idea of how it was looking. And I gotta say, I'm not a fan. I think that it looks a little too Little House on the Prairie. Unfortunately, she looks more like she just stepped off the Mayflower than she's going to a farmer's market with, a Starbucks apple crisp drink in one hand. So I think what I'm going to try to do is cutting a collar out of the main fabric and seeing if that kind of saves it, because I do really, really still love the idea of doing a plaid collared mini dress. I don't want to give that up. I just don't think that this is the move. Literally, if I just sewed a bonnet, I'm pretty sure that I wore this in a Thanksgiving school play one year. So yeah, I'm going to cut out a new collar and we'll see if that ends up giving a little more going to take cute pictures at the pumpkin patch and a little less 1642, Let's try that. Okay, good news and bad news. The good news is that I do like the collar in this fabric a lot more. And granted, it does kind of blend in, so it is harder to see the collar, but I think that's okay. I think that it's just a fun little detail, and I don't think that it needs to be the main star of the show. As long as it is not the main star of the Thanksgiving Day play, I think we're good. Unfortunately, I don't have much of this fabric left. In fact, to even cut out this piece, it's supposed to be just one piece cut on the fold, but I don't have enough fabric. I couldn't fold it and cut the fabric. So I had to cut two different pieces that I'm going to have to sew together. And I'll have to do that for the other collar piece too. But that's okay. I mean, I'll just sew them together in the back. The seam will be in the back of the dress. No one's going to notice. And even if they do, it's certainly not a big deal. But yeah, I am going to have to get a little creative and scrappy to piece together this collar. But that's okay. Honestly, I think it'll be worth it. This is so much better. Oh my gosh, that is a relief. So yeah, let's cut out the under collar and then we'll get to work sewing this up. I know I love to say this and I rarely ever say it honestly, but we are pretty close to done with this. So let's just go ahead and wrap it up. After pillaging my remaining scraps for enough fabric to cut out the collar pieces, I proceeded to iron on interfacing to the wrong side of the collar pieces. Then I sewed the scraps together to create two collar pieces. After that, I pinned and sewed the two pieces together along the short ends and the outer edge. That done, I trimmed the edges, reducing bulk so that the edges would be sharper than the smell of burned popcorn once I flipped it inside out. By the way, does anyone know what I'm talking about? One of my college roommates reduced a bag of microwave popcorn to ashes once, and we had all the windows open trying to air it out for at least a week. It was putrid. Next, I pinned the collar to the neckline. The collar done for now, I started working on the facing. I interfaced all the facing pieces and sewed them together, then finished the outer edge. And then I had to do a little retcon. I had forgotten to interface the center front of the bodice and skirt, so I did that before sewing on the facing. Pretty close to done now. I hemmed the skirt, feeling proud of my work and excited to see, oh, yep, there is no thread in that bobbin. Don't you just love it when you lift up your foot to cut the thread and discover nothing but a little trail of perforation? It's like the sewing equivalent of forgetting to include the attachment in an email, or noticing a typo in the subject line after you sent an email to everyone on your team, including the VP. Except at least a bobbin running out of thread won't wake you up at 3 a.m. absolutely devastated for the rest of your life. And speaking of little things that haunt me in small, specific ways, it's time for... I wish I could explain the dread that sweeps over me every time I have to make buttonholes. There are so many things that can go wrong. Your bobbin can run out of thread halfway through, your alignment can be off, your machine can get possessed and vomit a tangle of thread onto the wrong side of, oh, those actually look pretty good. Anyway, I sewed on the buttons, which hand sewing on buttons always makes me feel like Laura Ingalls. I mean, you know, if Laura Ingalls was listening to YouTube videos about Five Nights at Freddy's theories while she sewed. And with that, the dress was done, and it was time to move on to the next project. One item of clothing that I think looks so chic, especially in the fall or winter, is a satin midi skirt. I think that having a fitted satin skirt is so incredibly elegant to style, even with an oversized sweater or a chunky boot. Like, it just adds sort of an instant elegance to any outfit. It's just very classy and, in my opinion, absolutely never goes out of style. And I have actually made a satin midi skirt before, but I made it in this bright blue fabric that I love, but doesn't really go with much. And so today I am going to be making a satin midi skirt out of this neutral colored, just sort of slightly off-white fabric. And of course, by fabric, I mean bedsheet that I thrifted. You guys know the drill. To make this skirt, I am going to be using the, I think it's pronounced Sadie skirt pattern by Vicky Sews. And this is an incredibly simple pattern. It doesn't take very long to sew. It isn't very complicated. It's just a simple bias cut skirt that you can style up in so many different ways. So before we get into it, if you don't know what like cutting on the bias means, maybe you've heard that term used, but you're not quite sure of the exact definition. So basically, if I try to sort of tug this fabric vertically, there is no stretch there. Same if I tug it horizontally, same thing, absolutely no give. But if I tug it diagonally, there is a little bit of stretch to it. So when you cut on the bias, you're essentially cutting diagonally, and it gives the piece of fabric and ultimately the piece of clothing that you're creating a little bit of stretch to it, which is so nice, especially in a skirt, because it just sort of helps the fabric sort of naturally hug your body. It looks incredible on absolutely every person. So you can see if I hold this fabric vertically, not really anything happening. It's just a straight sheet. It looks like it could be the background for a photo or something like that. But if I hold it diagonally, you see how there's immediately these beautiful folds and this nice drape in the fabric? That's essentially what you're doing when you cut on the bias. Any fabric that's hanging loose like this is just going to have this beautiful shape and drape to it. So yeah, let's get going on this skirt. Okay, I just wanted to show you up close what this looks like. So you can see the pattern piece has these two lines that indicate the grain line. And typically the grain line runs vertically and horizontally. Again, these are usually going to be the directions with no stretch. And so in order to cut it on the bias, you can see how the pattern piece is placed sort of diagonally. So this vertical line lines up with this side of the fabric, and this grain line, I may have to adjust a little bit, but ideally it should run parallel to this bottom of the fabric here. And so cutting on the bias does tend to take up more fabric, unfortunately. You can see kind of all of this wasted space and all of the weird shapes that it's going to make in my fabric. But that's okay because, like I said, the skirt itself is going to look beautiful and just have this wonderful drape from being cut on the bias. And now for the educational portion of this video. Tips for sewing satin so your garment doesn't end up looking like a cat scratching post. Please, please, learn from my mistakes. Tip number 1, use lightweight pins. There are pins made specifically for satin and they are worth it. Tip number 2, use a fine point needle. It'll save you from those little runs that make your fabric look like a cheap pair of tights. Tip number 3, use small stitches. Picture your sewing machine foot dressed up for Paris Fashion Week and sky-high heels and a tight skirt. Tiny, careful steps only. To give this elegant skirt the finish it deserves, we're going to be using French seams, a neat, durable technique ideal for sheer or lightweight fabrics that hides raw edges for a truly professional look. No croissants included, unfortunately. To make French seams, you place your 2 pieces of fabric wrong sides together, so the pretty, shiny side is facing you, making you feel like a Regency-era modiste as you daintily pick pins from your thrifted soap dish with your bright orange fingernails. Doing this also reminded me to do my Duolingo for today. I'm learning French because I wanted to as a kid, but my parents made me take Spanish instead, which was the more practical option, I'll give them that. So when I was maybe 10, I went to the bookstore and bought a French-English dictionary and I tried to teach myself, which you can't really learn a different language that way. The only phrase I ever learned was actually a line from A Wrinkle in Time that I memorized. But the point is, I wanted to learn then, and as a part of my never-ending quest to make my younger self happy, I'm trying to now. Anyway, when you're done rethinking your high school language credits and sewing the side seams, trim the seam allowance as best you can. It's really hard with slippery fabrics and already slim seam allowance, so, just do your best. No one's gonna judge you unless you film yourself and post it on the internet. And why would anyone do that? Oh boy. Turn the skirt inside out and press the side seams flat. Then you're going to take the fabric back to the sewing machine and sew the side seams again, but right sides together this time. And this creates a beautiful seam where the raw edge is fully enclosed, like a baby goat in a petting zoo. I just wanted to show you. This is what a French seam looks like from the inside of the garment. So you can see no raw edges exposed, everything is so nice and clean. And then you flip it inside out, and it just looks like a regular seam. All right, so next is to add some elastic to form the waistband. This is truly one of the easiest waistbands you could ever make. It's like one of those pancake mixes where all you have to do is add water. I just made a loop out of the elastic, then I marked 1 centimeter down from the top of the skirt with a water-soluble marker. I used that as a guide as I stretched the elastic out evenly. Finally, I secured the elastic with a zigzag stitch. Okay guys, the waistband is sewn in. I will say, I am technically skipping a step because if I unfold it, you can see, and ignore the fact I haven't washed off the water-soluble marker yet, but it isn't super pretty. So technically you are supposed to sew a second elastic basically on the outside of the skirt, but I want the elastic to be invisible anyway, and I think a second elastic would ruin some of the stretchiness. So I'm just gonna fold it like this when I wear it, so you can't see the elastic, and it keeps a little more of its stretchiness. So I'm just gonna skip that. I did a zigzag stitch all the way around, so I don't think the fabric's going to fray or anything like that. But I mean, if I change my mind or if it looks bad, I can always add a second elastic later. It'll take like 2 minutes. But anyway, I think this is pretty much done. The only thing is I gotta go hang this up, because anytime you cut something on the bias, and that includes even like a circle skirt, because part of that will be cut on the bias, you need to hang it up for like at least 24 hours before you hem it, because gravity can work on the stretchiness and kind of stretch it out like taffy so that the hem isn't super even. So you want to give gravity time to do all of the tugging and pulling that it wants, and wait to hem it so that you can make sure that you still get a straight hem at the bottom. So yeah, I'm gonna go hang it up for a day, and then I'll do a little rolled hem at the bottom, and this is all done. Moving on to the next project. I mean, let's be real. You cannot claim to have a fully fleshed out fall wardrobe if you don't have any cozy cardigans. I was about to say I've never made a cardigan before. That's not true. I have knitted a cardigan before, but I've never sewn a cardigan. I picked up this stretchy red fabric, and it's actually a tube. So I don't know if this is meant to be a fabric or what the heck this is supposed to be, but it's just a big tube. But you can see it has this beautiful ribbing to it. And it's just this vibrant red fabric that I picked up at Goodwill. I love the color of it so much. I think that it's so beautiful and would make such a gorgeous, stunning, elegant cardigan. And so that's what we're gonna make. So I have been wanting to make the Bryn cardigan by True Bias for a long time. I love that this pattern comes in so many different options. So you can easily make it into a dress, you can make it into a vest, you can change the length of it. You can do so many different things with this pattern. I do think that I'm probably going to make a couple little tweaks to make the final cardigan a little bit more my style. But I think that this is such a great pattern to use as a jumping off point, and then decide however you want to customize it. So yeah, let's get going. I started by pinning my front and back pieces together at the shoulders. Notice that I said pinning, not sewing, because when you're sewing in knit fabric, you have to use a ballpoint needle. And apparently, the trolls that stole my AirPods like a year ago decided to toy with me again by sneaking into my sewing room and eating mine. So I had to take a little trip to, what the heck? Anyway, got my ballpoint needles, which are needles that kind of gently push the thread of the fabric aside instead of slicing through them. Kind of like a polite person weaving through a crowded party instead of elbowing their way to the snack table. And consider this your final warning, because if I see a good charcuterie spread, I will start taking people out like an Agatha Christie novel. Using a lightning stitch, which is basically a zigzag stitch that's been doing yoga for a few years, I started by sewing the front and back together at the shoulders, then added the sleeves to the bodice. After that, I folded it all in half and did one long seam, from the hem of the bodice straight to the tip of the sleeve in one satisfying swoop. After that, I hemmed the bodice and the sleeves. Then I prepared the neckband by adding interfacing to the bottom of both ends. This is going to create some stability for the buttonholes and buttons. Yes, more buttonholes, that's coming soon. No, I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. I pressed the neckband in half, wrong sides together, and sewed the short ends of the neckband, right sides together, to create a clean finish on the bottom. Finally, I pinned and sewed the neckband to the almost finished cardigan, making sure to align the notches. With that, only two obstacles stood between me and the cozy autumn leaf red cardigan of my dreams. The part of sewing that makes me stress sweat, and one important decision: which buttons to use. Time to dig through my giant box of buttons. Okay, let's see. Okay, so first up, kind of my initial thought when I was thinking about this cardigan. I'll see if I can find it. I know there's a Pinterest image, but it's this cardigan and it has all of these mismatched gold buttons. Like one's a little heart. They're all in like different shapes and, slightly different sizes and stuff like that. And I think that that's so cute and charming. I would love to do that, maybe as like a thrift flip or something someday. It almost feels like patchwork, you know? It kind of makes it feel cozy and homemade, which is exactly what you want for fall and kind of the vibe that I'm going for with this cardigan. I found these buttons at Hobby Lobby, which I think are super cute. Again, I love that they have almost like a patchwork homemade look to them, if that makes sense. Like obviously these aren't homemade buttons, but you know what I mean? It feels a little bit like down home country vibes with the little daisies, and then it almost looks like it has stitching around the edges. I don't know, it has sort of a teddy bear quality that I think is very cute and endearing. The only problem is that I'm not a fan of silver. I'm a gold girl. I'm not opposed to mixed metals at all, so I don't mind having like silver buttons while I wear gold jewelry. It's more a matter of like if I wear this cardigan with a bottom that's a warmer color, is the silver going to look out of place? You know what I mean? But maybe I'm overthinking that. Another option we have are these like sort of pearl and gold buttons that I think are super, super cute. And I do think that they would look really nice on this cardigan, but I'm a little worried that's too uptown a little bit. I don't know. I'm afraid that it's going to make the cardigan a little too fancy. You know, like I said, I want it to have a little more of a lived in, homey, cozy vibe. Whereas this is a little too like Blair Waldorf, I think. I don't think it's quite the vibe that I want. I don't really know. Maybe I could do like pink. Maybe that would be fun. So it's not as stark a contrast as like white would be, but it's still a little bit interesting, I guess. I don't know. So maybe I'll do pink. Oh, I do also have these gold buttons that I think are nice, and I like how simple they are. I feel like this wouldn't necessarily make the cardigan look super fancy, but I also think the buttons are a little bit small. I think I would need a little bit bigger. Do I have any bigger gold buttons? I have this, but there's only one of them. That's a risk sometimes when you're thrifting or antiquing for buttons. I do have just sort of traditional white buttons. I don't know, that almost looks a little bit Christmassy to me. What about orange buttons? Have like this button with a little crest on it, sort of Hogwarts coated. But I think that's also, that's a little too preppy. I don't want that. Maybe I just go simple and just stick with red buttons. Maybe that's the best move. Okay, I've done a lot of thinking, a lot of soul searching, and these were the final contenders. I think in the end, I'm going to go with the little silver buttons, partially because they're so cute, but also because this fabric is super thick. And I am worried that these other buttons, maybe these would be okay, or these. By the way, these are some cool sort of pearly buttons that I found in my stash. But anyway, I'm worried that these buttons are too small to actually go through and secure the fabric. You know what I mean? Like, I'm afraid they would just constantly be popping open. So I'm going to go with this one. If I decide later that I don't like the silver or whatever the case may be, I can always change the buttons later. You know, it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, so let's move on to my least favorite part of sewing, making buttonholes. I have spent so much of this video complaining about buttonholes. You might be wondering, wow, Allie, are buttonholes really tough to make? Honestly, no. Sewing buttonholes isn't technically difficult because my machine does do 95% of the work. I'm basically the person in the group project who adds one bullet point to the presentation but still expects full equal credit. But that's the part that stresses me out. I don't have much control over what happens. And if something goes wrong, it can be tough to fix. So I do what I can. I always make a practice buttonhole with the scraps of fabric I'm using to make sure the machine doesn't struggle with it. I always make sure the bobbin is stuck with thread, and I take my time lining up the garment before I commit to sewing the hole. Mistakes still happen, but those are some of the steps I take to ensure that the process is as smooth and painless as possible. Or at least as smooth as it can be when you're holding your breath and gripping the thread tail like a steering wheel in a thunderstorm. If you have any other suggestions on how to create perfect buttonholes, I would love to hear them. Please leave any advice in the comments. Also, this fabric was very thick and difficult to open up the buttonholes. At one point, I did stab myself, but it's okay. The fabric is the same color as blood, so wasn't noticeable, all good. Also, it wasn't deep. I was fine. I ended up mostly using scissors, but with the tenacity of a child on Christmas morning, I got them all open. This is the next day, and as I was drinking my morning tea, I just thought that it would be so nice to sit down, sew on some buttons, just have a nice little cozy morning sewing session, you know? So I'm gonna show you guys a quick trick before I get started. If you need to tie a knot at like the end of your thread, what you do actually is you like wrap the thread around your finger and then you kind of like roll it off. And then that sort of creates a nice knot right at the end of your thread. Can you see that? And I usually like to do that a few times because I'm paranoid. So I like to double and triple knot. There it is, double knotted. And that's what I like to see right on the end there. Anyway, to me, there's something about hand sewing that feels kind of inherently fallish. I think part of it is because there's kind of a stillness about fall that I think is really unique to the season. Like in spring, you know, things are kind of coming back to life. Animals all around, birds are hatching, snakes are slithering out of their winter hibernation. You know, there's a sense of things kind of waking up and coming to life in the spring. But in the fall, it's different, you know? It's kind of like things are slowing down. You're getting ready to rest, getting ready for kind of like some restoration. What the heck did I just do? Oh, I pulled the thread the wrong way. Like winter feels like a very sleepy season, you know? Things are kind of regenerating so that they can grow again in the spring. In the summer, things are at their peak, they're at full vibrancy. But there's a sort of quietness about fall that I don't think that we fully get in any other season. It's just sort of like a deliberate slowing down. There's sort of this urge to still be out, like not quite fully hunkered down like in the winter under just blankets and cozy pajamas and fuzzy socks. There's still kind of a desire to be out, to go to, you know, cozy little bookstores and to go to farmers markets and to go on nature walks and to enjoy all of the changes that the season brings. I think there's just a beautiful quiet about this time of year. And so little activities like sewing on buttons and knitting, they just feel very, very appropriate for this time of year. Oh, I lost my thread. Literally and figuratively. Fall makes you want to do things like bake some sweet, frivolous dessert that are dripping with caramel. You know, will probably give you cavities and possibly pre-diabetes, but also tastes absolutely incredible. I've actually been on the hunt for some good fall recipes. I made for my cousin-in-law's baby shower, I made some chai cupcakes that were so good in my opinion. I really loved them. And actually when I was making that, part of making the frosting was actually essentially making chai tea in milk. Like I boiled milk and put some bags of chai tea in it. So that kind of gave it a nice, warm, spicy flavor. Unfortunately, the pot did boil over and I have yet to completely clean that burner. Let me know if you have any good fall recipes for baking. I'm always on the lookout for new ones. So I always associate fall with the smell of cinnamon. And that could be because I don't know if they do that everywhere, but I know around here grocery stores put out cinnamon brooms in the fall, which are literally just little like wooden brooms that smell like cinnamon. You put them in your kitchen and it just creates this beautiful fragrance. I mean, I know my dog doesn't really love how hot it is here. Like he's fine, he's not suffering or anything, but as soon as the weather cools down, like he is jumping and skipping and hopping our entire walk. He is so happy. He just wants to stay out there forever. He'll just like to go like sit in the yard and just enjoy being outside. And I get it because I do too. Typically after like our evening walk, that's what we'll do. He'll just want to stay outside, stay in the yard. I'll just go inside, get a book and a little picnic blanket and just sit outside with him till it gets dark, reading and just enjoying the peacefulness of the season and also the ability to be outside for more than 5 seconds without my face melting like in that Indiana Jones movie. Indiana Jones, The Lost Ark, is that what it's called? Which I've never actually watched that scene because someone told me what happens and that sounded disgusting to me. And I know like obviously it's an older movie and the special effects weren't great, so people are like, "Oh, it's not that realistic. It's fine." I don't care. I don't like gross stuff. I really, really don't. All right. Well, I haven't made much progress on my tea, but I did finish sewing on the buttons. They're looking pretty cute. So thanks for keeping me company while I drank a little bit of tea and sewed on these buttons. So yeah, I'm gonna take a little break to drink the rest of my tea and probably get something to eat. And yeah, we'll start moving on to the next project. I'll see you in a couple seconds. Here's the thing. Fall is mini skirt season. I don't make the rules. I'm just here to tell you that there is no better outfit for fall, in my opinion, than a mini skirt with a sweater. I live for that look and I look forward to it all year long. I mean, come on. Plaid skirts, sweater, and my white go go boots. That's all that I could possibly ask for, honestly. So, this fabric might look a little familiar. Recognize that from anywhere? So I actually thrifted this full bed set. I'm pretty sure the whole thing only cost like $5 or something like that. But I made this little dress, which by the way, this is the Buffy dress from Vicky Sews. I made this dress out of the pillowcases, and I've been hanging on to the actual sheets trying to decide what to do with them. But in honor of it being plaid season, and this is such a gorgeous plaid. Like I love kind of the texture that all of the lines have. You know, I love that it isn't just a solid white. I don't know, it gives it a little more depth. And I love the orange, I love the green. This is very, very much in my color palette. So yeah, I am going to make a little skirt out of this fabric to add to my ever-growing collection. I'm going to be making the Sunrise Skirt by Jessie Lou's Closet, which, confession, in my head, every time I would see Jessie Lou's Closet on Etsy, or like I follow her on Instagram, every time I would see her Instagram handle, in my head, I always said Jessalicious. And then I was listening to the Love to Sew podcast, and one of them made the Sunrise Skirt, and they said Jessie Lou's Closet. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. It's Jessie Lou, not Jessalicious. But anyway, Sunrise Skirt by Jessie Lou's Closet. I think that this is so cute. Part of my thing with skirts is that I actually don't like it when it's like a skirt in the front and shorts in the back. I like for it to be a skirt all the way around, but just have shorts underneath, you know? So that way, like, you don't have to worry about accidentally flashing. You're a little more comfortable. But again, I just don't like the look of randomly having shorts in the back. And so I love that this pattern, you can make it so that it just looks like a full wrap mini skirt. And it has a cute little tie on the side, which I think is a fun little touch. If I held this behind me, I would just completely blend in. That's kind of funny. Anyway, let's get going on this next project. After sewing the darts, I started working on the shorts, sewing the back legs together at the curved edge and adding the facing. Now, kind of an interesting design feature of this pattern is that the zipper isn't in the back, it's in the front of the shorts, which to me at least, that does feel almost like wearing a backpack on your stomach. Like, there's nothing technically wrong with it, but I don't necessarily love the look. That said, it's not a big deal. It gets covered by the skirt panel, so I just rolled with it. But that quirk would soon be forgiven, as this pattern taught me a new technique that will change the way I sew forever. It is time to flip this little strap inside out. Here's the thing. I don't have a loop turner or any fancy tools or anything like that for turning fabrics inside out. Usually I just use a safety pin and that works well for me. But here's my problem. When you have one end that's sewn up like this one is, it becomes very, very difficult to flip it inside out. It just becomes a lot more tedious. But in the pattern, Jess said that she likes to do the chopstick method, which I've never heard of before. She describes it as you take a chopstick and use that to kind of push the closed end through. Now, I do not have any chopsticks because I am not cultured like that, unfortunately. I cannot eat with chopsticks. I mean, we're in America. Usually they have like some forks or something on the table anyway, but if they don't, I have to ask. And I feel like such a fool. I feel like such an uncultured swine for having to ask for forks and things like that. But such is life. So I do not have any chopsticks. But what I do have are knitting needles. So let's try this. How do you even get started? I am really scared that I'm just going to poke right through the seam. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna try this needle. It is a little chonky. I think it's like size 13. Yeah, size 13. So it's kind of big, but it is wooden and I feel like it's less likely to destroy my stitches. So I'm gonna actually try this needle and see if this works. I should have looked up a YouTube tutorial for this. Okay, okay. Okay. Oh my gosh, I think the needle might get stuck. Oh my gosh. That was so easy. Oh my word. Okay, I have to just poke out the corners a little bit. Oh my gosh. Wow. Look at that. That took literally seconds. I cannot tell you how much pain I have suffered. And granted, this is kind of a bigger strap, so it might not be as much of a problem. But I have had so many times where I was trying to get a safety pin through a very thin strap, especially, and like suddenly the safety pin comes open in the middle of the strap, and I have to like extract the pin without it sticking through the fabric and getting stuck more. And it just completely undoes the work that I already did. Jessie Lou, you are a genius, and I cannot thank you enough for bringing this method to my attention. This is actually life changing. Oh my gosh, this whole video is worth it just for that discovery, honestly. I'm sure if you're watching this, especially if you're not a sewist, you think that I'm exaggerating. I'm not. Like, turning straps has been the bane of my existence. And now here I am. I'm free. Allie is a free elf. That's how I feel right now. Harry Potter just handed me a sock. Like, this is incredible. You're changing lives out here, Jess, and I appreciate you so much. All right, let's do the other strap. Incredible. That's wow. Wow, wow, wow. Here it is, all beautifully turned out. This is why it's good to try new patterns, read through the instructions, always keep learning, because so often there is a better way to do things that you just don't know until you stumble upon it in a pattern, in a YouTube video, whatever the case may be. If you are a fellow sewist who has struggled with turning straps inside out, I hope that you try this, and I hope that it changes your life as much as it has changed mine. Okay, now I am starting to sound ridiculous. All right, now I'm gonna go press these straps so that they look nice and flat and sharp and pretty. Kind of like my singing voice, except for the pretty part. Just somehow both flat and sharp. Anyway, I'm gonna go press these. After I press the straps, I edge stitch to give them sharp, clean edges, like they just got a fresh haircut, which I badly need to do. My ends look like they got caught in an electric fly swatter. Setting the straps aside, I moved to the final stage of the project, the skirt pieces. The first step was to sew the lining to the main fabric. Okay, so now I'm gonna sew all along this top edge, skip 1.5 centimeters here so that we have room to put in the strap. Sew all right down the right side, all along the bottom edge, and then I'm gonna leave this side open. I think that we're just gonna finish this edge and use it to attach the skirt to the shorts. After I had sewn a lining to the front and back skirt pieces, I tucked the strap into the gap I had left, like a kitten curling into a perfectly sized shoebox, and edge stitched around the skirt panels for a polished finish. Oh my gosh, you guys, look at how cute these skirt pieces are looking. I am so excited. Everything is looking so adorable. And I think that we're pretty close to done. Like, all of the pieces are kind of in their final state. I think now it's just time to sew them together, and that's it. We're home free. I'm so excited. I keep holding it up to me to like see what it'll look like. Looks pretty similar. All right, let's wrap this up. So yeah, all I needed to do now was sew the front skirt panel to the front shorts and the back skirt to the back shorts, so I have 2 pieces instead of 4, and then sew those 2 pieces together. That sounds like a word problem, but I promise is actually very simple. I have to say, the thing that made me a little nervous about this pattern is that you can't really try it on until the end. Normally, I like to do fit checks throughout the project, but with this one, you don't sew the 2 halves together until almost the last step. And this is why making a trawl first is such a smart idea. Or at the very least, I could have basted the shorts together earlier to get a sense of how it would fit. But honestly, I was just so excited to see the whole thing come together. And that good idea did not cross my mind until much later. Okay, flipping it inside out, moment of truth. There we go. It looks so cute. Oh my gosh. For the most part, it is done. It is looking so cute. I love it. I know it looks silly with the dress. It is not that dramatic of a difference. And yeah, I'm just gonna finish it up here. Just hem the shorts and edge stitch the facing, and this project's all done. I'm so excited. It looks so cute. It looks a little bit like the skirt Olivia Rodrigo wore in the Good For You music video. This is like the sunshine version of that skirt. Anyway, let's finish this up. And with those final seams complete, my fall wardrobe done, I finally felt free to embrace my white girl culture and frolic in my local pumpkin patch. Goodness, I never have this problem with my tripod. Okay, you guys, that is it. That is everything I made. I am very, very happy with how everything turned out. And I hate to be needy, but I do have a request to make of you. Here's the thing. I did not get to all of the projects that I would have liked to make in this video. I did not make any pants. I did not make any tops. I bought some suede last year, and I think that a suede skirt is absolutely perfect and iconic for fall. And so I do have more fall essential projects that I would like to make. However, this video was so much work. I thought dumbly, naively, that I could get this done in a week to 10 days. It has been a solid 2 weeks of sewing, shooting, editing, all of that stuff. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy doing it. I am more than happy to do it. But I do also really want to know if it's something that you're enjoying. And I want to know if you would be open. You're not committing, okay? This isn't legally binding. But if you would be interested in a part 2, please, please, please like this video, leave a comment letting me know, and be sure to subscribe so that you can actually get the notification if or when I post it, depending on how many people let me know they're interested. It really does mean so much to have your support and to hear from you and to actually know that you watched it and that you enjoyed it. That really, really does mean the world to me. I enjoy being able to do these projects and to show you what I'm making, and I love being able to connect with you too. But yeah, just thank you for being here. And I hope that you'll stick around and that I will see you in the next video. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.